right, coming at you all the way live from the lower bottoms of West Oakland. This is Revolution, and today I'm pretty excited. I had a real fun pre-recording conversation with two of the gentlemen from the Left Flank. Should I say the Left Flank Twitch stream?
Just you can say left flank veterans.
Left Flank veterans.
Yeah, we do a bunch of things.
And I peeped these cats on Twitter, and I hit them up, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'd love to have you on the show, and we can discuss some anti-war vets talking some anti-war stuff, some leftist stuff." I'm assuming that's why you guys are called the Left Flank.
Hell yeah.
Yep, exactly right.
So how did it all come about? What was the impetus to start it?
The beginning was Bernie Sanders. The organization it was started as Vets for Bernie back in 2016 campaign by a few other gentlemen and ladies other than ourselves, and that's I kind of got in around 2017 before the the most recent run. We started the second run with as Vets for Bernie again. Started kind of engaging in a lot of the same things that we were doing before, just organizing really any type of veteran. We weren't necessarily trying to engage on political ideology lines. We were like really just trying to gather all the veterans that were already bought in, and then trying to convince the ones that weren't to just support Bernie Sanders. So when second campaign came around, they actually stood up their own, like Vets for Bernie official group, and that's when we kind of transitioned to Left Flank, just to have, our own identity. And then it wasn't, after the campaign, the Bernie campaign ended, we just kind of moved on and started trying to support candidates, moving on to like having a Twitch stream, and also just really supporting any progressive movements we can, and whatever else we can get into, but a whole lot of shit posting on Twitter as well.
That's what we're known for.
Your Twitter shit posts?
Oh yeah, I mean that's how we. I mean, obviously, like the platform got built, like Marcus said, like by doing Veterans for Bernie. But I'd say what we're most known for now is being epic online and dank memes. But
that's how I found y'all.
Yeah, exactly. That's why we get promoted, is just like not being afraid to talk shit. And also, like, as veterans, we probably get a little bit more leeway to go after some of the sacred cows, because we've been over valorized and romanticized so much that they're like, well, I guess they can say that, but no one else can.
Do you think, as a veteran on the left, do you find that there's an obstacle? I think we were kind of talking about this before off air. Is there a bit of an obstacle as a veteran on the left when you're trying to push left ideology? Do people kind of look at you when you come to the DSA meetings and things like that? Like, oh, well, you're or is that old thinking? Is that old thinking from like the kind of anti-Vietnam?
I think, Dick, you should handle this one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, there's definitely it's more quiet than I've literally there's guys in Left Flank, some of our admins, who have said literally, like, people have told them like, we don't want a veteran in a leadership position. But I've never had that experience. I've never had. I mean, I'm not like, sometimes it might be hard to like guess like that you're a veteran, like, especially if you're a veteran on the left, you probably don't have the like signifiers of like a lifted truck and Oakleys and just and like a shit attitude everywhere you go, and like being ironically, like, the socialist veterans are the least entitled of all the veterans. So like, which is exactly what the right would tell you is the opposite. But I mean, so the only experience I just joined my DSA chapter out here in DC recently after Bernie lost this go around. I was like, I gotta do more, like, I'm just fucking pissed and I had nowhere to put it. So I joined my DSA chapter and I showed up for a march with them when the George Floyd protest kicked off. I went by myself to a few things, and saw the violence outside the White House and shit, and was witnessing that. But then I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to an actual DSA march, and they're like, we need marshals for the march. I'm like, I ain't never done that before, but I'll do it. So I showed up, and it was funny. So they circled everyone up to do the marshal thing, and like I showed up, and I'm like, I told the other guys in left flank beforehand. I'm like, I gotta buy some stuff so I don't look like a cop so much. Um, and so I show up, and like they all look at me, and they're like, we all got masks on and stuff. They're like, can we go around and do names? And they come to me, and I'm like, oh, I'm Dick, and they're like, Dick, huh? Okay. Yeah. I was like, shit. So like I think it's just like I don't know. I still have some of the signifiers apparently, but I don't think I've mentioned that I'm a veteran and how that informs my experience. Definitely like helped to radicalize me, having experienced and partook in the imperialist nature of our country firsthand, and not liking what I saw and did, not being proud of it. But like I don't think there's many people on the left that would want to actually want to put up that gate. I haven't experienced that all that much, but like I said, it does happen.
Yeah, and I'd say too that a lot of people, like especially it happens online every once in a while. Someone will go on, a tirade about how all veterans are just like, like all cops, and like Dick said, like he's done marches. I don't think there's anyone in left flank that hasn't gone to multiple, marches, not just for Black Lives, but for multiple things. And we also try and encourage other veterans to do so. Other veterans to like wear their uniforms when they do it. Like I'm a big fan of just wearing my old camouflage and like writing. Like I just write Black Lives Matter across it, and it makes a statement. And hoping that people can, kind of turns it on its head of like the the normal veteran stereotype that you're probably going to see. There's no Chris Kyles over here that are like, well, I just had to do it and I'm proud of. Like we're not trying to play that game.
Yeah. That's the Zero Dark 30 guy, or is that the sniper guy?
That's the American Sniper.
Yeah,
Chris Kyle.
That's the sniper guy, right? That they made a movie about. Two movies about.
Yeah, just the Clint Eastwood one, I think. Right? Did they make another one?
Isn't there like a sequel?
Really?
God forbid.
Are you thinking of Lone Survivor? That's another guy.
Maybe.
One played by Bradley Cooper. Yeah, Lone Survivor, another SEAL, Marcus Luttrell. Not big fans of either of those two, let's just say.
Or those movies?
Those movies, those people.
Picture George Zimmerman in a uniform.
Wow.
That's basically
real.
what you have. Zero remorse, zero thought process. Hey, this was a good fucking kill, and that's all I care about. And I did it for America. Love me.
And Chris Kyle is like a proven fucking liar. Like he's a fucking liar. Like he lied about so much shit. Like he said he waxed people during Katrina from like the top of the Superdome. He said he killed some carjackers and the cops just let him go. He said famously he punched out Jesse Ventura in a bar. And he got sued like for that, like because he's such a fucking public liar. He's not a role model for anyone. I mean, in a lot of senses, but like you also can't trust a fucking word he says. He probably lied about most of the kills that he got because he wanted to make himself seem bigger and badder than he actually was. And most of those kills were probably children from 50 yards away, like a fucking grand sniper he was. I mean, Clint Eastwood glamorized it in the movie. He was like,
yeah, he did.
Like the little fucking, it's so ridiculous of a scene too, because the guy next to him's like, if you're wrong, that kid doesn't have a grenade, you're gonna fry. And it's like, that has literally never fucking happened. No one has ever been held accountable in Iraq or Afghanistan for like this shit, like fucking pulling the trigger when they thought it was a good kill. Like the only time anyone's ever been prosecuted is like when Blackwater used a 50 cal on a crowd, in the middle of a square in downtown Baghdad. Like that shit doesn't get prosecuted. It doesn't happen. So like this idea that every fucking troop is out there like scared to pull the trigger because they might get arrested is dumb. It's the
Yeah,
opposite.
and I
So,
think like it
okay.
ties into like much like the justice system for black and brown people here in the United States. Like there's even monumentally less so for the brown lives that are just indiscriminately killed overseas.
And I wanted to kind of expand on that when you mentioned Blackwater and you know the brown lives that do get killed overseas. As we talk, defund the police, and then I had recently on the show Saloni Kolhatkar, who has the show Rising with Saloni on Free Speech TV, had written a really good essay about defunding the military, and then this bill that didn't pass, Bernie Sanders' bill to defund the defense spending only 10%,
Yeah.
and it didn't pass by a whopping majority. There was, I can't remember what city it was in. They said they were going, maybe it was even Minnesota, where they said they were going to remove the police from the school, and they replaced it with private police.
Yeah.
Did you
Marcus,
guys? Did you
go
guys
ahead.
see that happen overseas as well, where a lot of like, let's pull some troops out, but then you get replaced with like Blackwater-esque
Yeah.
mercenaries?
So, um, that's Dick served before I did, so he probably saw like a little bit less. And then obviously, yeah, like anytime I go overseas, like whether you're in a combat zone or not, they're just people around that are government contractors that are just doing jobs that used to be done by service members. And there's actually like plenty, like there's data on this of Vietnam era. I think you're looking at about 50 to 1, like 50 military members in uniform to one contractor, and
Mm-hmm.
now it's gone so much to absolutely flip to when now there's 2 contractors to every one in uniform service member. And so when you're talking about even more inflated Pentagon budgets, and yeah, like the military industrial complex, just funneling money to just, I mean, they're warmongers and just mercenaries pretty much. Um, that's that's where it's going to a lot of these contractors.
And I would add, so I did see some private contractors when I was in Kandahar. Like our whole the fob that I operated out of was the guard towers were all operated by a private security company that was created by like one of the like original Delta Force guys who like was tip of the spear for the initial invasion in Afghanistan with the Northern Alliance, right after 9/11. So that guy, he gets out and he has all these relationships with these Tajiks and Hazaras from the north of the country who hate everyone in the south of the country. Like it's there's age old like tribal tensions and conflicts that the military industrial complex will play off of. Like they'll hire all those guys up north. And they'll bring them down and they'll be like, hey, you might get a chance to shoot a Pashtuni. You'll love it,
Damn.
and we'll pay you more than you ever could. And so that Delta guy, he makes $1 billion and probably pays these guys peanuts. But what I would say is, so Marcus is right. Like the 50 to 1 like ratio of contractors to actual troops is an alarming number. But the majority of those contractors aren't carrying weapons; they're carrying water and food. And what a lot of people probably don't know is that the majority of those contractors are brown and black people exploited from all over the world in like near slave-like conditions. Like
Yeah.
every chow hall I ate out of was operated by people from India, who like would have literal like there'd be like two like Irish or English white dude minders who would be looking over their shoulders at all times to make sure that they gave enough food or they were properly courteous to the troops, and that they were doing the jobs to the specs that they it decided were appropriate. And then all of the construction on the fob was done by Filipinos, who were working under,
Wow.
yeah, under like 110-degree heat all day. And I can't imagine for fucking peanuts for these massively overpriced contracts. I'm sure what they were getting paid well more than they could earn back home, but they're still being incredibly exploited given the massive amounts of profits that we see in the military industrial complex. I mean, like it's the 10% bill that you were just referring to. Like we literally on Twitter were just being like 10%. That's fucking that's what's the gif from from the Leo movie with Matthew McConaughey. He says that's rookie numbers. You got to up those numbers, baby.
Yeah, you bump those numbers up. Yeah, bump them up.
You got to bump those numbers up. Them's rookie numbers, baby. You got to do more. Like 10% is fucking nothing. 10% is like one F-35 for Christ's sake. The fucking airplane that won't shoot straight will decapitate the pilot when he tries to eject and can't fly in the rain. You know, like it ain't shit. It should be 50%, and then we'll go from there. We'll figure it out from there. It's insane.
Because that's only 75 million, right?
No, 10% would be more than that.
75 billion. 75 billion.
Yeah.
Billion, yeah. Which isn't that much in the grand scheme of things. I mean, we spent what, a couple trillion in Iraq alone.
Yeah.
I mean, all said and done, by the time we're done with the forever wars, at least at where they're at now, you know, like we're over $7 trillion. And I think, you know, like also too, like one of the more famous, like egregious examples, like there's a, you know, like multi-million-dollar gas station built in Afghanistan that doesn't have any roads going to it.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Like literal bridge to nowhere shit, you know?
Yeah. And it's all, and you know, it's all contracts. It's all like corruption and stuff like that. We're not, you know, do you feel more free, you know, like, after all this shit?
And no one ever asked when we were like doing the fucking the fucking charge to Kabul or the charge to Baghdad. Hey, how are we going to pay for this? No one ever fucking asked that question.
Yeah.
No one ever asked how they're going to pay for our disability when we got all fucked up and they used and abused us and had us drive over every boom and bang and you know and you know, lose limbs and all that kind of shit. Like there was never any projections about how much VA disability payments would need to be paid, how much you know, other benefits they'd need, like GI Bill to entice more people to join. Like that kind of shit was never factored in. But God forbid you talk about giving health care to somebody, you best have a goddamn full business plan and budget planned out for the next 50 years. Otherwise, you ain't going to make it past the front door.
Which, yeah. What do you guys think about? I don't know if you guys are sports fans at all. So you know the military.
The Ohio State University. Sorry.
Oh shit. Uh-oh.
Look out.
So that's a yes.
Yeah,
recently we had some preseason baseball games. I didn't get a chance to watch any of them. I'm actually kind of disgusted that cats are playing with this pandemic going on. It's just, I think it's fucked up. But here in the Bay Area, there was a lot of news because a few of the San Francisco Giants players, including the coach, kneeled. And as we all know, Colin Kaepernick started the kneeling thing after he met with a Green Beret, was it?
Yep. Yeah, it was. Mm-hmm.
And the guy was like, well, you can kneel and then we won't get offended if you kneel.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, Kaepernick kneeled and it still wasn't good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Were you guys serving at the time when all this was going on, or were you out by then? When the kneeling first started?
I was still serving when that was going on.
I was out by then.
What was the consensus like around the vet homies around that? Was it split?
So, I mean, it was when I was in the Marine Corps during this time. You know, like I got out, in 2016, in June. So, yeah, around that time, it was extremely contentious. You know, and like especially like the not, you know, like switching from sports, like the first Black Lives Matter movement. That was a pretty just drawn on racial lines where, you know, the predominantly Black Marines or, you know, people of color or, you know, the white Marines that were like grew up in very, you know, in pretty much Black areas were the only people that were like, yeah, this makes sense. Black lives fucking matter. Kaepernick, you know, very similar thing, you know, for me where a lot of the people that didn't saw that something wrong was like, well, yeah, like they grew up in areas where it makes sense. Like they already had the Confederate flags. They're already saying all that shit.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and when it happened to me, it was like I was in college and hanging out with, veterans on my campus, and
Hmm.
uh, I mean, I would say the majority of them had a problem with it. I mean, like even like I was probably like more of a lib back then, like more liberally
Hmm.
minded.
Ew.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I know, right? I'm not happy about it either.
It's okay. A lot of us voted for Obama. It's okay.
Oh yeah, we did what we had to do. Lesser
Well,
two
lesser two
evils that we
evils.
talk about. Um, but yeah, I mean, most of them had a problem with it, and like it was, but like you said, Jason, like how um this guy Nate, the Green Beret, who told Kaepernick, like, okay, don't sit, kneel. That might be a better way to demonstrate like you're doing a protest without, showing like this the disrespect that might be associated with you sitting. Um, and so he did that after and publicly said this was approved by this guy. He actually suggested it to me. And then everyone said, no, you can still go fuck yourself. And
Yeah.
that like my question to those people always is like, what way would you approve of someone protesting, like, and they're protesting, they're not protesting like I have this like niche issue, like, like spay and neuter your pets or something. They're like, I want to not be killed. I want to not be killed, and so I'm going to do the least aggressive, uh, controversial thing I can think of, and but also trying to utilize the platform that I have to draw attention to this issue. And there is no answer to that. They never have an answer. You can't say anything at the fucking Oscars. You can literally turn on Fox News one day and watch the Chiron say like Christian athlete being persecuted for doing prayer, and they'll being like, we need to definitely like interview this person and give them a huge platform. The next day being like, oh, a brother had the fucking audacity to say something about Black Lives Matter. I wish he'd shut the fuck up and just play sports. Like
Shut up and
that's
dribble.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah. The
Shut up
next
and
day,
dribble.
like without any sense of irony. So it's not there. There's not a consistent ideology there. It's a complete hypocrisy. But there's also they pretend as though there is a framework, a proper way to do this, but they can't tell you what that is because it doesn't exist. It's a lie. It's a myth.
I think there's a specific conversation that I had, and this is a few months before I left the Marine Corps, and it was like you know, um, like the Black Lives Matter movement, and someone pulls out the, well, cops actually kill more white people by number than black people, and that seems like, of course, like by the proportion, like it's moving statistics, just a bullshit argument. But irrelevant of that, I just turned around and asked him, then why aren't you mad?
Yeah,
Yeah.
And he
yeah,
just stopped and blinked
yeah.
and didn't have anything for it.
Mhm.
And that's the thing too, is like it's just like that, like these flip flopping on whether it's freedom of speech. Though someone got blocked on or banned on Twitter, and that's you know somehow banning their First Amendment. Yet people are getting black bagged, thrown into vans,
Yeah.
kidnapped by our own state.
Yeah,
Oh well, though that's Antifa protest. No, no, like I saw them. Like one person was just riding a fucking bike. Another
yeah,
person was just they were just standing in a group. They got snatched up. You could just see these things.
yeah.
So
The don't tread on me crowd is awful fucking quiet right now.
yeah,
How do you guys feel? Because I do want to get into that, but before I get into that, I do want to ask this question. How do you guys feel though when you see the vets get trotted out for the cameras and this is for the MSNBC crowd as well as the Fox News crowd when they do discuss the Kaepernick situation and kneeling? Like, how pissed off do you guys get? Because they're definitely not asking y'all.
no,
Yeah,
extremely pissed.
yeah,
Like as pissed as you could be without throwing like the remote at the TV. That's how upset I get.
I think I've done that a few times actually. I think I've thrown them out. Yeah, I mean it's it's disgusting to watch because it's exactly what I was talking about earlier. Like it has everything to do with the valorization and romanticization of the troops, which ends up turning into the weaponization of the troops, right? So like any issue, like this fucking shit that like Kate, what's her name? Fucking McEnany, the new
The
press
White House press
secretary.
secretary. Yep.
Yeah, the other day she tried to say when someone asked her like, why can't we change the names of these military forts to people who didn't like fight to keep people of color in chains, and she's like, well, some of the troops. That was the last fort they were at before they went and died in Iraq and Afghanistan. And you want to change the name of the fort? I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? The
I
fuck?
heard
What?
that and I fucking screamed.
Yeah.
It
Like,
is
what do you?
insane.
I
Insane.
mean, and the funny thing is like, so I have a direct analogy. Like, so I went to Afghanistan from Fort Lewis. I came back and it was Joint Base Lewis McChord. It became JBLM while I was gone. No one asked me about that if I'd be offended if I was going to
Oh
die in
man.
Afghanistan. Like, oh
Wow.
my God, the precious Fort Lewis that I was at. It was so precious. The name, uh, how the all the freedom I died for has been wiped away. It's
The tyranny, man.
yeah, it's completely asinine. It's completely asinine. The same thing goes for every time that there's.
Sorry, it's the only sound effect I got.
We got the rim shot. Oh, I liked it. I liked it. Yeah, but the same thing goes for any sort of issue that remotely concerns like any sense of nationalism or patriotism. It's like, can we find a troop that will pretend to be pissed about this? And there are plenty of like fuckhead lib veterans who will come out and do that shit and be like, and it's even when even when like some egregious act is done by a veteran, by the military, they'll come out and be like, this isn't the military I served in. It's like, bitch, please, what are you talking about? Of
Yeah.
course that's the military you serve. They're like, not my unit. We loved the Constitution, and we prayed every morning and washed each other's feet and and loved Jeebus and the flag all day long, and that was it. Like, and then we
Well,
never
it's
did
so
nothing
different.
bad.
It's no different than when people. This this isn't the America that I know. Well, welcome to real America.
Yeah, yeah,
You
this is America. This is
yeah,
you just
like this
you
is what it is.
your experience might not be the same. I was like, for example, I was talking to my parents after after I went to the White House protest I was talking about earlier. Like the day before, I was there the day before Trump like did his little fucking walkabout over to the church and held up like, check out the
The
Bible. It's a
Bible.
good book. Um, like I was there the day before, and I watched like these there was like these tiny like shitty steel barricades like up to your waist that kept getting knocked over because like the crowd would surge from the back, and so every time that happened, the fucking pigs would charge and start beating people with batons and shooting them with pepper balls, and all I could do was like try and get between, and it was a bunch of black teenagers, so I was like, I'm gonna like try and put my dumb ass between them. Hopefully like try and catch a baton or some rounds. And luckily I didn't have to. It was like my section of the crowd was always pretty safe. I just lucked out, I guess. But I told my parents about this, and I was like, whatever last bit of patriotism I had was killed that day watching this. I was like, I never treated a single person with as much brutality in my life as those fucking cops did to those like these fucking kids out there just trying to be like, why are you murdering me and my family? And even and that was true. Like I never treated an Afghan that way when I was deployed with the same like lack of humanity and brutality. Like I did things that I wasn't proud of in terms of like being aggressive when I felt I had to be when I was in danger, and like just a general like sense of regret and fighting for imperialism, but I never fought with that sense of brutality, like the sheer lack of humanity that those guys had in their eyes, right? And I told my parents about this, and they were like, "Oh, Mark, like, yeah, I know this isn't like the country you fought for or something," and I'm like, no, it is. I just was a dumbass and didn't know it. Like, I was like, right down the road from here, Eisenhower led a cavalry charge and bayoneted the bonus army to ribbons. Like guys who came back from World War I and camped out on the mall and said, "Give me my goddamn money you promised me. I got no legs. I can't fuck it. I'm shell shocked as shit. I'm blind from mustard gas. Give me the bonus that you said that you would, that you're not doing." And our response was we sent MacArthur and Eisenhower in with bayonets to cut them to ribbons and disperse
Mm-hmm.
them and burn the camp to the ground. I was like, that happened. That
Mm-hmm.
that was a thing. That's like, this is nothing new. This isn't because of Trump. This is fucking the America.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what
I'm
we
not going to
do.
pretend it's going to get better when fucking like, Biden goes in the White House. Like this brutality is encouraged by the current president. Definitely, like he's fucking terrible. But there's a rich legacy of this same shit happening time and time again.
Did you want to chime in, Marcus?
Yeah, I mean the thing that I was thinking about like earlier too, but when Pete Buttigieg had mentioned, I carried this rifle in Afghanistan, so I wouldn't
Oh
have to carry
God.
it at home, something of that nature,
Uh,
and that's like that is something that like one of the more aggravating things is that even painting this huge imperialistic, I mean, and like it's nothing sort of genocide, you know, that's it's not okay to even we need to reframe the whole thing when we're talking about Afghanistan, Iraq, and how we talk about it and how we even engage. But yeah, it's kind of crazy when you see you know I think it was like Mike Gravel on the debate stage uh back in, I think it would have been what, 2008 or
yeah, I think
maybe
so.
2007.
2004 maybe.
Well, it was for that was the one Obama won, wasn't it?
No, that was Bush Jr. the second term.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right.
Yeah, oh wait, would have
Well,
been 08.
oh, it
Was
would have been,
that
oh,
08?
yeah, because I thought, yeah, Obama was there. But either way, like what he was saying was that pretty much everyone on the stage is either a war criminal or advocates for war crimes,
Yeah.
and it's just true. And everybody on the stage, Biden, Hillary, Obama, there's a few other, maybe Howard Dean was up there too, just started laughing. And like, but these are true. In a just world, every president would be, answering to the Hague,
Mm-hmm.
including Obama, including, the patron saint, Barack Obama.
It'd just be funny, like imagining Obama's response be like, "Hey man, they're about to give me the Nobel Peace Prize. What are you talking about?
The
War criminal."
fucking Nobel Peace Prize when he first got into office. Remember that?
Yeah.
It
Well,
was
like,
aspirational.
and then start selling, selling the weapons to Saudi Arabia so that Yemen, the Yemeni people could just be slaughtered. Great. He took, like we were involved in Iraq and Afghanistan from W. By the time, and like all the countries that I helped invade, or always help occupy, that was under Barack Obama. He took two countries to went up to 7 that we were, like military involved in. And then on top of that, we've got 400 some odd bases in 180 different countries. Right now, there are at least, 2 dozen ships just floating around, waiting, quote unquote, waiting for something to happen. Um, it's a large scale thing that it needs to be curtailed. Like going back to like the 10% that Bernie wants to cut. Like those numbers are really chump change.
Yep.
Uh, and I know we talked before when I initially sent you guys a message. I definitely want to talk about some of the things that we don't really hear on mainstream media when it comes to our involvement in foreign wars, which is the Afghanistan papers, which I thought was going to be this huge media
Yeah.
thing that was going to propel the Sanders campaign even more, kind of got released with a whimper.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we really don't talk too much about our involvement, all the actually conflicts that this country is in throughout the world currently.
Mm-hmm.
And when we look at places like Afghanistan or Iraq or Iran, I think the average American looks at them as like backwards countries.
Yeah.
What's
No,
your
and that,
guys? I want to hear your guys' take on that.
Mm-hmm.
and that's my service is what, like I get would say radicalized me, right? Like I needed to make sense of things. When I joined the Marine Corps, I thought I knew what I was doing. And then, after probably about 3 years, in one deployment, I started scratching my head and say, this isn't what I thought it was. And I didn't know what it was at the time, but I just started asking the questions why. And we had mentioned Michael Brooks earlier, and like rest in peace. It's sad, like his untimely death. But
shout out to Michael Brooks, rest in peace,
yeah.
buddy.
But like that's where I ended, right? I started just Googling shit and like jumping on YouTube and just trying to find more information about things. And I ended up finding, organizations like TYT, the Majority Report, Secular Talk, and like all those more left wing programs, and started realizing like, oh, holy shit, like this is not good. Like none of it's good. And also too is like when we talk about Iraq, Iran, Syria, these are countries that we destroyed their infrastructure almost entirely and completely. Or like not like Iran, the reason why we, probably hate them so much is more just so because they didn't want to take our shit. Not that they were necessarily doing anything wrong. You
Mm-hmm.
bring Cuba, same thing. They just didn't want to handle it. They didn't want to take our shit. And consistently throughout United States history, countries that do not want to give into the U.S. empire are like are brought to kneel, right? They are crushed. Whether it's like the dozens of examples in South America to now like in the Sahel region of Africa, all throughout the Middle East, it's nonstop.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not I'm not sure I have anything to add there. I mean, I would say like for example, just what came to mind when you were just talking, Marcus, was about how there was an article that came out recently. I think it was Task and Purpose actually, which is like a distinctly like outlet that covers military and veteran issues specifically. And it's run by some vets themselves, and they definitely try to play middle of the road, but some of their reporting ain't bad.
Mm-hmm.
And they came out with a story that was like, we spent, I think it was around like $70 million on this logistics and equipment accountability system for basically tracking what kind of like vehicles and weapons we gave to the Afghan National Police specifically. And of course, like in order to run this system, you need internet and electricity. And there was a huge proportion of the posts that were supposed to be using the system, which had neither of those things at all.
Wow.
And what it made me think about was, in so there are like urban centers in Afghanistan, and like you said, most people think of the Middle East overall as a backwards country. Afghanistan isn't even really in the Middle East. It's but people lob it in there because it's adjacent to it, and it's a majority Muslim country. So
There's
it's
brown
all
people there.
yeah, it's brown people. It's yeah, exactly. But there are urban centers there. There's Kandahar, there's Kabul, you got Herat. Like there's a couple urban centers there where like you have indoor plumbing, you have electricity, you have internet. But and most of the country has cell phones too. They have a cell phone provider. But the like you just go just outside of Kandahar, just north of there, where my unit was assigned, and you got villages that don't have running water. We're trying to do like public works projects and shit there, but you're very limited in what you can do. And like, we're trying to stand up a school for kids, right? Like, oh, we're going to win some hearts and minds, but like, they don't even have there's a building that they could use as a schoolhouse. So first you have to like commission a project to build a building that will last, at least a fucking year or something, that won't be washed away during the next flood, and put that. And then, at the time I was thinking, well, this is actually, we're not trying to rebuild infrastructure. We're just trying to build infrastructure, as an occupier, which is a problem unto itself. But now I think about it too. There was recently like a UN commission that came to the United States and said that they have traveled all over the world, and there are parts of Appalachia in the United States that rivaled the poverty-stricken areas of the world they had ever visited. So, like, it made me think about like the U.S. gets invaded by fucking Mother Russia or something, and they're trying to build infrastructure down in Appalachia, and they're like, why did they cut the tops off all their mountains and poison their citizens with sludge? Like, like, like we act high and mighty, and we think like, oh god, indoor plumbing's a mystery to these people. There's whole swaths of this country that are suffering to varying degrees of like comparable conditions that these people are also suffering. Yet we spend, we're going to spend, like, we probably spent fucking a couple $1 million trying to get this fucking school built in one village in the in northern Kandahar province in Afghanistan, that ended up like just probably never even operating at any sort of capacity, or getting blown up immediately by the Taliban, because we built it, and because they, didn't want a symbol of American hegemony in one of the villages that they were going to rule over in Pashtunistan. But that millions of dollars definitely could have been used much better. Probably uh, shoring up an infrastructure here at home, or just giving aid to other countries in order to build solidarity with them, and maybe
Mhm.
gain some influence through diplomacy that way, rather than through the barrel of a fucking gun. I mean, those are the thoughts that I have now in my like evolving like politics. Like I said, I had the lib worldview of like, oh, we can't build infrastructure here because it didn't exist to begin with. Now I'm like, well, yeah, because we choose to give the money to Raytheon instead. You know?
Guns, was it guns abroad, butter at home?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, why we can we can spend like Marcus was saying before, we can spend a couple $1 trillion on the forever wars, which we pretend we're still not in as well. We pretend that Afghanistan still isn't going on, which it
I
is.
agree.
We can spend bajillions of dollars on the F-35. That's an utter failure. The littoral combat ship, two of which I'm not
Yeah.
sure you're familiar with.
I'm not
Yeah,
familiar with that.
that's the advanced navy ship that is like, looks like a goddamn trapezoid. um it's supposed to be like this new high tech piece of equipment, and they built it around this this futuristic rail gun that was supposed to, and basically the ship and the weapon have both been utter failures, and they have lost. They're going to decommission those ships and not build any new ones in the very near future, and they're quietly trying to just like retire these ships that had only been around for 10 years. It's the fraud, waste, and abuse in the Department of Defense is egregious. It defies parody or satire. You saying these things out loud, I don't believe them when I say them, but I know them to be true. It's
And
it's
it's
hard
and
for
it's
me to explain.
bipartisan.
Yes, exactly,
Sorry to
exactly.
cut you off.
Yeah, and that's something that is like the worst part about it. If hearing, like when you hear vote blue no matter who, I cringe at that, right? Because like I said, I served on Obama. That's blue, right? He's supposed to be the greatest president ever. Like even now, the House, the Democrat controlled House, is passing. It has passed. Increased military budgets for President Trump multiple times. Homeland Security, ICE, whatever the hell he wants. That they're and that thing is like in the on he'll go on MSNBC, Nancy Pelosi, and say, "Oh, this is so terrible." Trump is so bad, and then but all we got to do is just go out and vote, and it's kind of like a head scratcher. Like, wait a minute, you're controlling one of the arms of government, and you're just kind of letting us get steamrolled. And that's the thing. It's like we all that's happening now is just a greater share of the American people are feeling like what it's like to be abroad in one of these countries that we've been crushing.
Marcus, how dare you say that? I watched Nancy Pelosi seal clap and tear up that speech, and
Oh,
yeah, I
yes,
watched her do that.
queen.
Yes, and you're gonna
Mama Bear, you talking about Mama Bear Pelosi?
exactly. You're gonna sit here and tell me she's not challenging Trump. She tore up those papers. I saw it. Okay, she did the sassy clap.
She
You're
took
a
a knee
misogynist.
in kente cloth and then got George Floyd's name wrong. That's
That was
power.
watching her old ass try to kneel in that damn kente cloth, and it's kind of disgusting.
It was a perfect yeah. It was like, have you seen the video of where she can't get up from the kneeling?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, and she's like, "It's a little hard. Can someone?" I'm like,
I'm like,
"This, you couldn't write a better piece of like, how is there any comedy anymore? How is there any parody or satire? Like, there's nothing to make fun. It exists in front of us. The world has manifested it.
the
It's
Onion is
it's
now news.
Yeah.
oh, it's funny that you say that, because these are the things to me that seem like parody. I'm writing this essay about the authoritarianism in the U.S. With the rise of Trump, right? And what we're seeing in Portland. And as I'm writing it, I'm actually kind of going back to 2017, the inauguration of Donald Trump, and I'm scratching my head as I'm writing, because I'm like, wait a minute, because I'm talking about all the things he had done up into that point. Grab him by the pussy. He was in the middle of that litigation with his fake university.
Yep.
Making fun of the disabled guy.
Making fun of the disabled guy, referring to black people as the blacks when he had
Saying
his like one
Admitting
campaign
to
rally.
looking into the dressing rooms for underage girls at his pageants. That was another thing.
saying about McCain that I like people who weren't captured. Okay.
Yeah.
Like everything he did was kind of like one of those movies where the reluctant guy that has a good heart becomes president, like Chris Rock in Head of State, where he's like, I'm just an alderman.
Hmm.
And you know what I mean? And but he speaks to the people. And I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem, writing this out, this kind of feels like satire. And even watching this play out, the way we're looking at coronavirus, masks are stupid, who the fuck listens to doctors anyway?
Hmm.
And not even having doctors speak. George Bush Jr., I call him Jr., as bad as he was as a president, and I definitely think that you need him to have Donald Trump. You can't have Trump without Bush Jr.
Yep.
He brought out Fauci to talk, because it's like look, I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, but this little motherfucker does.
Hmm. Get out here, nerd.
Yeah. and it's like Trump his ego can't even handle that, and it just feels so satirical that it's now to the point that we're looking at congressional members who, for the most part, we didn't talk about that much in mainstream media.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And
Well,
now we're seeing.
Oh,
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I
No,
was
just
gonna
seeing the
say,
performative politics of that, right?
yeah. If with the Democrats, it's so much more about decorum, and if I sold my soul and Donald Trump would listen to me, I think I could get him to be president until he dies, because it's not what he's actually doing that's the problem. It's the style points.
Mm-hmm. I agree with
And
that.
that's that, or at least that's what, at least for, some of the established people that are, they've never seen a problem with people going hungry. They've never seen a problem with homeless people. They've never seen a problem with people going without health care or going bankrupt trying to get health care. They've never seen a problem with people with student loan debt that they can never get out of. They've never seen a problem with bombing black or brown countries across the world. They only see a problem with it now. So it's performative. It's all bullshit. There are people who've been, speaking out against it, but Democrats had to vote for the Iraq War, and they have to still continue passing the NDAAs. So it is a very performative thing.
And Pelosi is speaking out somewhat about what's going on in Portland, but I mean, I remember Chris Hedges went to court over this. He sued, I believe, the Obama administration. Him and I can't remember who else was in that lawsuit. Maybe Cornel West. I can't remember, but they sued the Obama administration over that NDAA.
Yeah, and there's been multiple things, especially for both between Iraq and 2001 and 2003 NDAAs. 2001 being Afghanistan, 2003 being Iraq. Really, Barbara Lee is the only person that got those answers right. And that's something that even Bernie Sanders admitted on the debate stage. And and still in Ilhan Omar, she had an amendment to try to put in the recent in the NDAA that's probably going to get passed, just to create a framework to pull out of Afghanistan. There's no dead time. There's no timelines, anything like that. Just trying to create a framework to get to peace. And of course it fails. And this is in the Democrat-owned House of Representatives. And I can understand if you say maybe her plan wasn't you felt like it could be improved. Well, then improve it. But this is something that should have happened yesterday.
Yeah.
And what's again, we don't talk about the Afghanistan papers and everything it revealed because of the bipartisan nature of it. And I think one of the more revealing parts of it was when they said that there was one higher up in the State Department, I think it was, that had asked a general pretty much he was paraphrasing, can you show me where the bad guys are or who the bad guys are?
Yeah.
There's a great clip. I remember this back in the day when Panetta was SecDef, where someone asked him how many countries are we currently involved in kinetic operations in, and he laughs and goes, I don't know. He's like, the fuck you ask me a stupid question like that, I'll smack you. Oh, I'm supposed to know who we're killing where at what time. Fuck you, man. It's absolutely insane. And honestly, I'm not all that surprised about the Afghanistan papers falling flat like they did. There was a news story for about 24 hours, and the reason that it's not a news story is because there's two reasons. One, the normal lib crowds that those kind of stories would appeal to, the DC insider crowd, the fucking establishment elites, who are tied into institutions and the halls of power. They're telling them that what they already know. They're like, of course there's not a strategic objective. What did you think there was? Of course we're not about to turn a corner. Of course, but we have to pretend like we do, because otherwise we lose, and we can't lose. And then, so that's the first reason, is all the newsie is yelling, Afghanistan papers drop, we're being lied to, and everyone says no shit, and then the rest of the American public, which normally would be the second audience that would care about this, is I don't want to think about this. I forgot there was a war. Why would I pay attention to it now? Are we still in Afghanistan? Are we? I can't keep track. I know we're killing the bad guys in a bunch of different places, but like our Secretary of Defense, I couldn't tell you where or when. So it doesn't. That's why it fell flat, is because everyone who that would have been new information to, it wasn't, and who it was in a position to do anything about it, they already knew that, and then the American public had already decided that they had written this off long ago.
Which is so sad, because I watch an obscene amount of true crime when I'm not doing shit for this show, and I can't remember what channel this is, ID Discovery, one of those channels.
Yeah.
There's a show called American Justice with Bill Curtis, and I just love his voice. It's fucking awesome. And but all the commercials are these Wounded Warrior commercials.
Oh yeah, yeah.
and it's a country music guy. I can't remember the one. He's like, you gotta help us. We'll give you a blanket. And
Freedom isn't free.
Yeah.
You know what? So we used to call those commercials. It's like the ASPCA ads for veterans. Like it's like Sarah McLachlan like in the arms of an angel, and there's a guy with no legs, and he's like, "Won't you put me in a home?" You know, like
yeah, and
just like
they're getting more sad, man. They had one dude was like, I was ready to kill myself, and his daughter is like, this little girl, she's like, and then my dad started drinking and got his gun.
Oh no!
And I'm like, oh fuck.
Well, Dick, I don't know if you know that, but that came true. Like there are commercials now for veterans with amputee like amputee vets that are looking for like homes. So that's a thing. The music
No, I
behind it.
mean I was referring to specifically the Wounded Warrior Project commercials, like
Oh,
those.
okay, yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're
No,
fucked up. They're
I
fucked
was like,
up.
I just saw one of those like the other week, and I was just like, holy shit!
Yeah, when
Why?
I was working for a veteran service organization out here in DC a while back, and yeah, we used to refer to the Wounded Warrior Project as the ASPCA for veterans, because like, and like the problem with that is too, like the fundamental issue also is that you when you get out of the military, like there are different lenses through which veterans are like viewed, right? Like you're like to some people you're just a useful idiot, like you're just some dumbass from the deep woods who like didn't have like got poverty drafted into the military, which that happens. That's true. You're a bloodthirsty baby killer, and you just wanted to go kill. The people that didn't matter overseas, and some of that's true. Some of those people join the military, or you are a goddamn hero on a shining hill, right? And then like so those are how you view service members, I should say, not specifically veterans. But when you get back, there's a whole subset of the population that will also be like, oh my God, they're just never going to be the same. They're all broken in the brain. There was like too many bangs and booms, and now all they want to do is, yell and scream every time there's a fucking car backfires. They're going to yell Charlie in the Wire and dive into the nearest bush. Um, and like Marcus was saying, I think probably before we were recording, Marcus was saying he was like he was like that's a lot of people in the military like literally just fucking like pump gas or like move boxes around, like Marcus and I had the more akin to the quintessential experience that people like, because we were both grunts, so like we we experience some of the bangs and booms that everyone imagines everyone in the military does, but we're just a tiny subset of the population, and we get all the glory, and they think that we must be deeply broken and about to be set off at any point because we had that experience. That's just not true. In
And the
fact,
and the, the bangs and booms moments, like they never happen. It doesn't. It's not like the movies, right? Like it's not.
no,
Yeah.
no. No, it's stupid, and it's usually just due to a whole bunch a series of poor decisions that you and your leaders made. It happened in an instant. A bunch of people died. You're not sure why or how, and then you just have to fucking live with it afterwards, and try like go to therapy, deal with it, and move on. But it's not. Yeah, there's very rare moments where you get to like have any guts and glory, or even like see your enemy, like even like witness like a
Yeah.
person with a gun firing at you, like you might be lucky if you get to see a muzzle flash and fire in that direction, or the only thing you see is a fucking flash and a boom because you just went over an IED. Like it's a war of, you're fighting against ghosts most of the time, and you don't get to have those experiences that people have in their minds about to fucking taking Hamburger Hill or storming the beaches at Normandy. I mean, even all the cinema and television that's been done about 9/11, like all of it sucks. It all fucking blows, like post 9/11, like war on terror cinema. It's terrible. There's not anything good that I can think of.
So you're going to tell me that the Hurt Locker isn't? So
Oh, that
I do want to say this. So
I
Chris
can
Hedges
choose my damn
apparently
cereal. Okay, let me just tell you that.
the Chris Hedges who has the quote in the beginning of the Hurt Locker from a really good book he wrote. If you ever get a wild burr in your britches to read it, called "War is a Force That Gives Us Meaning," got kind of upset that that quote was used for that movie.
yeah.
Like he signed off on it, but he was like, he didn't really like the movie because he was a war correspondent for 20 years for the Times, I believe. And even he acknowledges like my life was different over there, but it definitely wasn't that of a soldier's. Like that's a whole different world. A good friend of mine actually served in Afghanistan and actually had went back. He became a drill sergeant and ended up going back. And he talked about that movie. He goes, I fucking hate that movie because that's not real life.
Mm-hmm.
And he goes, the only thing that hit me was the very end when he goes to the grocery store.
Yep. That's a lot of people actually. I had a similar experience. I remember actually when he's standing there in the cereal aisle. I watched that movie when I was on R&R from Afghanistan.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, and it also like it sent me into a full-on panic attack during one of the booms. Like it was like, oh fuck, it's like I gotta go sit down, gotta pause this one and come back to it, you know. um, and the last scene though, I remember like I said, so like I have these thoughts when I first got out of the military that I've like evolved on since have evolved in my politics and my experience. So
Mm-hmm.
when I first got out of the military, I had a similar experience. I was in the grocery store and just feeling like dog shit. Like I hated everyone who was around me for no fucking reason. Like I was like angry and felt alone and isolated. I was dealing with like, some PTSD and stuff, but that wasn't it really. But I remember staring in the lobster tank, just staring at this fucking lobster, just floating there, and him being like trapped and having the little rubber bands on his claws. And I just stared at him for like 5 minutes till someone like bumped into me, and I was like, oh, I need to, go continue shopping. But I just remember
Mm-hmm.
like I had a kinship with this lobster in that moment, being like, I I am a man in a cage with the rubber bands on my clackers. And what I thought it was and what I thought it was, I was like, oh, it's because I left the military, right? Like I left the military and now that I feel alone and trapped like him because I was free and had a community when I was in the military. And that might be true, but now the way I look at it is there are a lot of people who never join the military who feel like they're that fucking lobster because they're trapped in this fucking capitalist hellscape that we all live in now. You feel like you have to go work a job every day that you fucking hate, that you
Mm-hmm.
don't get paid enough, that you are exploited for. You feel like you got the rubber bands on your clackers. You can't even pinch back because some imbecile in multicam will throw you in the back of a Ford Windstar if you do and never be heard from again. Um, or like and you don't have any community that's one very appealing aspect of the military. If you ask any veteran like what they liked about the military, including lefties like us, like they will tell you like I miss the brotherhood, the camaraderie, like there is like this very tight knit sense of community that you get because you're forced to like spend so much time together and to work together to accomplish a goal. But like when you get out, the capitalist hellscape forces you to do the exact opposite. Like now you are an individual again. Like the military is like, if you're in the military, you're living in one of like a socialist utopia that is dedicated to actually killing in the name of imperialism. Like you get, you get, you get all your meals covered. You get a place to live. You get a community. You get told like where to be and what to do, in a more authoritarian sense. But all of your basic needs are provided for, so you don't have to worry about those things. And you get out and it's the exact opposite. Like go figure out how to feed and clothe yourself, and do it all on your own. And it is incredibly like it's been proven too. There's like been studies on this. It's a traumatizing experience for a lot of people. Like there are a lot of people who get out of the military and like are institutionalized like Shawshank style to such a degree that they don't know what to do when they get out, that they have PTSD like symptoms, and never experience combat. It's and often they will, this is where you get like stolen valor situations too, where people will like pretend that they were like involved in a lot of combat and stuff because they know that that will be a somewhat valid excuse for their failure to transition into this capitalist hellscape.
Wow, I've never heard of that stolen. That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, there's uh, I mean, I've talked. I'm not one of the stolen valor thing is so fucking dumb. It's so dumb. Like it's just like to establish a meritocracy hierarchy amongst veterans. It's really dumb. So like I don't call people out for that kind of shit because first of all, you're probably wrong. Like a lot of the times you're probably fucking wrong. Like when you try to call somebody out, like they just don't fit the notion of like what you think a person would be like if they experience this, and that's just because you're a dumbass. But like it's also like the fact that those people are probably going through some other shit and they're looking for a way to connect with other people and like it's a cry for help. They're reaching out to try and connect with other people, and the same is true for civilians. Like civilians who do it, like they feel like when you get a stolen valor situation with a civilian, it's because they're like, who is society respected by? A troop. Like I just want a crumb of respect and dignity that I don't get in this current system. How can I get it? And they built a mythos around themselves in order to get it, and one lie leads to another, and it spirals out of control until they end up like getting outed on YouTube or some like viral shit that is just egregious. But yeah, like some fucking hot dog necked former ranger or something being like, my friends died for that uniform, you piece of shit, you know, like
Yeah, and
it's
you know what? I you know, like actually, like speaking of someone fair, like I'm more okay with someone wearing a uniform who never served to make a few bucks if they're hungry than most of the people who did serve who just grift off the American people off of this false sheepdog notion.
yeah, I would
And
agree.
especially like assholes like Dan Crenshaw, you know, who a
Oh,
huge piece of shit.
Fuck that
Um, yeah, like
I was
please,
about to say
like
that. Yeah, fuck that.
no one never thank Dan Crenshaw for his service. Ever.
guy.
Like, fuck that guy. He's a piece of shit. He's probably a fucking war criminal. But
Hassan Piker was right.
uh,
Fuck him. Fuck his eye hole.
yeah, and actually, you know, hey, and like that's me. It's like, so I can't corroborate this. This is just like a little birdie told me that he actually lost his eye from scratching his asshole too much and not washing his hand, and then poking fire. I don't know if it's true. I don't know if it's
Allegedly,
true.
allegedly,
Allegedly,
he got
right? I
pink eye
don't.
from his own doo-doo ass.
Yes, and they had to remove it. So either way, I don't even know where we were going. um, yeah, shit, I lost it. I'm
You
sorry.
lost
Fuck
the
Dan
thread.
Crenshaw.
Word.
And on that note, would you are you guys? Can I talk to you guys for a little bit longer?
Sure.
Yeah, I
I'm
got that.
down.
Yeah.
Okay. I do. I have Patreon too, and I sometimes when we have these great conversations that go on a little longer, I do it for the patrons, and I definitely want to do a longer conversation with you guys. So please don't hang up.
Let's
Yeah.
do it.